Choosing a rare is pretty fun on Ironclad. I've just been talking about feed. Yeah, I mean, the other ones aren't that exciting. Demon Form, Fiendfire, and Corruption. I used to like Corruption a lot more than I do now, and even then I didn't think it was super great on floor 0. Between Demon Form and Fiendfire... Hexago stacked? I used to think this was just obvious Fiendfire, but I've kind of been coming around on Demon Form lately. Fiendfire is not at its best in a Hexago stacked. And Demon Form kind of is. Let's try a Demon Form. I'm not sure that's right, but it seems fun. It's different. I feel like I've started with Fiendfire much more than I've started with Demon Form. Hello, Lena. Hey, Trims. Hey, Cossaplex. And hello, hey, Cammer. To Wit and Mario Tamers, hello. Alright. More questions. My favorite fruit. Impossible question. Probably raspberry, though. My strategies and attitudes towards some cards have changed significantly over the last 4 years. 4 years ago, I would never take Choke on floor 1, but you saw it on YouTube recently. Do you think it's because Slay the Spire is such a versatile game, or it's me, or both? Well, I think part of it is that your understanding of my opinions of cards isn't... I'm not trying to be mean. You don't know what I think about cards. So, if there's a card that I think I should take on floor 1, like, 1 time in 20 or something, and you don't watch every run that I play, you probably will think that I just never take it. And then, like, at some point you might see me take it, and you might attribute that to me changing my mind. Or what actually happened was just I thought this was the 1 time in 20 I should take it. But there's actually a really long answer to this question as well, which is that in order to do experimentation in Slay the Spire, I want to try lots of different things. And experimentation in Slay the Spire at like this sort of level of gameplay isn't something like, oh, I think Choke might be a good card, I'm going to try taking it a lot. Experimentation in Slay the Spire at this level is like, I used to think Acrobatics was only pickable for Silence starting on like floor 8 to 20-ish, but I think it's possible that with a different calibration on like every card in the Silent card pool, I could start taking Acrobatics as soon as floor 1, and if I start taking Acrobatics as soon as floor 1, that could give me huge benefits going forward in runs. So I'm going to try recalibrating everything to let me take Acrobatics in Act 1 very aggressively. And then if I start trying to do that, one of the things I might try to do is take Choke higher, because Choke works pretty nicely with Acrobatics. But it doesn't actually mean that I think Choke's better. And I don't know that it's right to be taking Acrobatics more. Like, this is something that I might be trying, and I might try it over the course of like 100 runs, and then after 100 runs, I would have an opinion about whether it was good or not, maybe, or maybe I just have more knowledge about it without even having an opinion about whether it was right or not yet. So, that is what I would say to that. Some amount of like seeing me evaluate things differently over time isn't that I'm changing my opinion about whether they're good or not, it's that in order to continue getting better at the game, I have to try different things over time. That is another thing that goes all the way back to the question about like win rates, which is like, which win rates? Like, if I was trying to maximize my win rate, I wouldn't be playing like I have at any point in like kind of the only times I've ever been trying to maximize my win rate were like way back when I cared about streaks when I'd be at like 10-0 plus. I was actually legitimately trying to win the run without consideration of other things. But usually I'm trying to mess around and find some things out. Iron Wave seems good. Works with Demon Form, whereas Combust does not work with Demon Form. Okay. Oh my god. So many questions. Do I remember my most or one of the most uber lucky runs, such combinations of relics, etc., and what was it? The thing about that is you can just win the entire run on floor 1 like several different ways. Like Whale bonus into Pandora's Box, for example, just already wins the run. And you can't really get luckier than having won the entire run on floor 1, and I've done that more than one time. So at some point, like, the other stuff blurs together a bit. What is the best thing in the design of Downfall, and what do I think is the biggest design mistake they made? I haven't played enough Downfall to have, like, big opinions on that, unfortunately. A lot of mod characters I have played feel like you are just making Strike better for a really long time, and I don't find that fun. But that doesn't mean other people don't find it fun, it just means I don't find it fun. Whereas if you play like the base game characters, usually you are starting with Strike as how you deal damage, and then the way you deal damage will somehow meaningfully change at some point in the run. You'll end up dealing damage with lightning orbs, or poison, or strength gain, or an infinite, or something like that. And that's a lot more fun for me. You have a question about Watcher. You won the goofiest run at Ascension 20 with a Cut Through Fate, Empty Mind, Meditate deck. Cut Through Fate, Empty Mind, Meditate. Okay. Couldn't find an establishment or good ways to enter Wrath, and picked up a Prostrate to get cheap block because your deck was small and losing HP to foes that put statuses in your deck. Turns out a cheap way to enter Divinity doesn't interrupt your run is good enough in a deck with a really good draw engine. Could such a deck win in Ascension 20? What do you think? Yeah. Prostrate plus card draw is actually like one of the I don't know what to say. One of the available Watcher Infinites. I haven't been going for Watcher Infinites for like over a year or something. I put in my 100 runs on those and decided they weren't good, so. But it is definitely like, it's not terrible. I just think there's something better in the card pool. Let's transform a Strike. I don't hate Rage at all. You always thought Relic for Curse was an auto pick? I think I talked about that when I was making the decision. Which Slay the Spire playable characters would be the best and worst to date, and why? I feel like we don't know anything about their personalities. I don't know, I will open this to Twitch chat, but don't be weird. But I don't really have like a strong opinion. Cultist Potion's great. I don't mind Metallicize. I could go double Iron Wave though, with both Rage and Demon Form. What's my favorite weird rare? And is it Grand Finale? Should I go for the Super Elite again? It went so well last time. Not gonna do it. spot where I get to play demon form and I have a guaranteed good hand next turn. Doesn't mean my bash was kind of bad. But I didn't get punished. I think a single-player auto-battler could work like Hearthstone Battlegrounds or Storybook Brawl with a bit of Bazaar and Slice and Dice mixed in. I've played some. They exist. You can find them. Are they good? Here's the thing, I'm not much of an auto-battler player, so I don't really know. They seemed fine. I think anytime you have a game like that, though, like an auto-battler in general, whether it's PvP or single-player, so much of getting good in auto-battler is just learning which thing beats which other thing, and that can be fun, but I don't know how to evaluate whether an auto-battler is good or not without having done that. Like, I'm just clicking the buttons and seeing what happens until I know. I can't really make decisions yet in terms of, like, thinking, oh, this thing will work and this thing won't, because I don't know. Like Supper Soul in a Hexaghost deck. Did I win my first Slay the Spire run ever? I did not. I tried to take a bunch of strikes and didn't take any block cards, and then I died in Act 2. And then I think the next day I played for 16 hours. Okay, I'll just kill this. Probably right to switch targets here. I can draw 3 attacks next turn. I didn't. Magic Flower is an excellent relic. Dropkick works nicely with, like, strength and rage. But I don't really have vulnerable yet. I could upgrade Bash. I think having a dropkick in your deck is kind of nice on Ironclad too, just because you have so much access to exhaust. And then it goes infinite without you having to really do anything at that point. Let's try it. Gonna go here and upgrade Bash. Alright, next question. Oh my god, so many questions. What constitutes a good question? Whatever I judge it to be. You're welcome, Holiday. Any interest in challenges like the Card Mastery mod? I don't actually know what that is. Is it a thing that tracks whether you've like won with different cards or not? I think like my interest in this game is the stuff I was just talking about earlier, like asking whether a certain thing works and then spending a really long time testing it in different ways to see whether or not it does. So for me, that's always kind of been my project and will always be the project I'm most drawn to in Slay the Spire. I'm not really drawn to, like, trying to win with pain in my deck or whatever. Like, I just don't really care. I'm more interested in being like, I think maybe Rupture is a much better card than I thought, and so I'm going to start taking, like, Chemokinesis and Bloodletting much more aggressively in Act 1 with the intention of going into Rupture, and that also means that if I get a pain, I can hold on to it and not remove it from my deck. Like, that's kind of... I would much rather end a run winning with pain because I had that thought process and then spent a while trying it than end a run with pain because I set myself a challenge to end a run with pain. Personally. How it works for me. Birdface earns a good relic. Why do feet smell? Have you tried washing them? Am I having fun playing Slay the Spire? Yeah. And I'm still improving. It's a fun game. Do I have more fun when I'm teetering the edge of a loss every turn all the way up to and including the heart, or when I have built a deck already fully online before the end of Act 2 and I'm just coasting? The latter is much more common than the former, because if you're teetering on the edge of a loss every turn, like, the norm is that you lose at some point. Otherwise, you're not actually teetering on the edge of a loss. Yeah. I think usually my favorite thing is to have a mix. Like, have some part of the game that isn't that miserable, but also have some part of the game where I am having to think really hard to stay alive. Oh, I should probably use this for this fight. This bird-faced turn is featured in the Slow Lines video. How exciting. A celebrity recognized in chat. Pretty good fight. Demon Form did well here. That's definitely one of the fights Demon Form is good in Act 1. All three of these have arguments for them. I think because I have Rage, I'm going to take a Brutality. And I might upgrade Rage. This does seem like a run with 2 Iron Waves and Rage. It seems like a run where Rage could be a very substantial percentage of my block. Just do this. I don't know. I'm just kind of clicking on things. It's all kind of fine. At least 2 people are very intent on me playing guitar today, and I don't know why. What's the allure? I'm moderately excited about the lore in Slay the Spire too. I just think that, like, Mega Crit makes stuff that's very whimsical, and I enjoy some whimsy. What about Hexaghost makes Fiend Fire worse and Demon Form better? We need a lot of damage over time, and we need to have playable cards in our hand every turn, and Fiend Fire isn't very good at either of those, and Demon Form is pretty good at both. I don't know how... To me, that is kind of... I don't... It's one of the tricky things about talking about games. Here, I'm extending this to a parallel question that I'm asking myself, so we're going to count that as a question for the floor. There's this thing in games where, like, everyone who's played the game long enough and had a high enough level or whatever ends up being kind of the same, whereas people who haven't are all different. And maybe we care more about the people who have played a lot, and so we make a big deal about the small differences which do exist, but, like, really, there aren't that many. You might, like, talk a lot about how, like, one of the top chess players really likes to go for gambit lines or something, but ultimately, almost everything that that chess player is doing is the same as what all the other chess players are doing. They're, like, studying the same things. They are mostly having the same opinions about which openings are good and which are bad. And then if you talk to someone who isn't, like, a grandmaster chess player about which opening is good and which is bad, they all have, like, a very unique opinion, perhaps. And in order to get their understanding of which open is bad and which is good to a grandmaster level, it's very unique, like, what has to happen. Like, for one, a lot of things have to happen. Like, it's very, very, very hard to go from being a casual chess player to being a grandmaster chess player or whatever. But also the things that each person needs are going to be different. Like, some people are going to have a better sense for strategy, and some people are going to have a better sense for tactics and stuff like that. And you need to get to a point where you have a mastery of everything. So when you ask a question like, why is Demon Form good against Hexaghost and Fiendfire is bad against Hexaghost? Or why does Hexaghost make Demon Form better and Fiendfire worse? I know in my head why that's true, but I don't know what I have to say to explain it to somebody else, which is weird. It's an interesting problem as somebody whose job it is to explain strategy games to people. Different people need different information. Okay. If you feel like I've missed your question, I don't mind if you ask it again for what it's worth, but I am trying to scroll up and answer everything in order. Is Demon Form bait honestly asking as a new player? No, it's like fine. With a Demon Form from floor 1, what am I looking for in terms of consistently getting it on early? Like, getting it in play? So I don't have to play it in every fight. It's really good against, like, Lagavulin. And if I draw it turn 1 against Gremlin, that's cool. It's really good against Hexaghost. Like, it solves Hexaghost by itself, pretty much. In order to actually put it in play as the run goes on, a few things can happen. One is, like, I can get a Snecko Eye or something like that, which just makes me draw more cards and makes it so it doesn't cost 3 anymore. I do have a bunch of 0 costs, so, like, because I got offered battle trances early, I'm kind of not having that option as an accessible thing anymore, which is fine. That one didn't happen. That's okay. Like, it still could happen. I could perhaps end up with Snecko Eye, but probably not at this point. And it's kind of going to be hard to get Snecko Eye as your solution for getting Demon Form in play if you take Demon Form on floor 1, because you're going to want to take, like, Anger and stuff like that. Like, once you have Strength scaling, you're going to want to pair it with low-cost attacks, because each of them benefits from the Strength in turn. So that's one of the things, but probably not happening. Another is just, like, get an Anchor. Get an Anchor in a Battle Trance. Another is Bottle. Another is get max HP and Reaper, at which point it doesn't really matter if I take 20 damage on the turn I play Demon Form, because I can just full heal later. Those are the big ones that stand out right now. But I think, like, an important thing to realize is you don't have to put it on play every fight. And for the fights where you do have to put it in play, like, you have potions and things that can help as well. Guess when I draw Sever Soul again, I end the fight. Cool. I don't hate a shrug here. Doesn't really work with rage, but I do probably need some other ways to block. And anything that says draw a card in it. Like, I already have a dropkick. So we have to be alert to infinite possibilities. It's usually not going to hurt super much to have one shrug in your deck, and there's a lot of upside. What happened to Watcher? I don't play Watcher unless I win as Defect before, at the moment. I often say this deck wants Snecko Eyes. They're a heuristic I apply to determine that. You assume 2 good 3 energy cards is enough to think about it. I actually just think that it would be good if it had Snecko Eye. Like, yeah, there are heuristics I could give you for that, but also... The frustrating thing about how to analyze Slay the Spire is that, like, at some point there are somewhere between like 60 and 200 turns in the run, and there are 100 plus cards and 100 plus relics to consider, and you just at some point have to understand what all the turns in the game are and which decks are good at which turns, and then yeah, and then you just like do the thing. So that's kind of weird. There's a point where heuristics stop being as useful, and okay, well, no, I can actually give you a different heuristic which is useful instead of saying that heuristics. So a heuristic that you can use, which is useful, is you can think about the hardest turns in the game and what your deck looks like on them. So you can think about, like, what does my deck look like when it gets attacked for 67 on turn 2 by the Heart? What does my deck look like when it gets attacked for 100 on turn 2 by Reptimancer? What does my deck look like when it gets one of the turns against Time Eater where it's being debuffed and it only has 3 cards left to play? What does my deck look like when Champ overcharges? What does my deck look like against Hyper Beam from Automaton? What does my deck look like against Slavers turn 1 and 2? What does my deck look like against Book of Stabbing 7x6? What does my deck look like against Gremlin Leader if it buffs and then attacks on turn 2? And if you think about, like, the 10 most relevant difficult turns left in the game, the other 100 are usually, like, covered by something that will cover those turns. It's pretty unusual for a deck which can handle Reptimancer turn 2 to not be able to handle Darklings turn 2, for example. Although sometimes, like, as you think about this, you get better and better and better at understanding exactly which turns are hard. For some decks, like, turn 1 of Act 2 is a really hard turn, because you just get attacked for 20 half the time. And for some decks, you, like, really have to be sensitive to that. For other decks, it's like, okay, I get attacked for turn 20, but I have plenty of block cards, or I get attacked for 20, but I have sustain relics, so whatever. And yeah, So when I'm thinking about whether Snecko Eye would be good in a deck or not, I am thinking about, like, does Snecko Eye solve a whole bunch of the hardest turns in the game for me or not? And in this deck, putting Demon Form in play is really good and helps a lot with a lot of things. But making it so I can't play Battle Trends and stuff like that is pretty miserable. And I'm not thinking about that, like, abstractly, like, I think you shouldn't take Snecko Eye if you have 4 zero-cost cards. I'm thinking about that in the context of, like, what is my turn 1 against Thieves at the start of Act 2 going to look like? As it stands, I'll be able to play Battle Trance, and a lot of the time I'll find Rage, and that lets me kill one of the Thieves on turn 2, hopefully, and once I've done that, like, that fight's pretty easy. But if I take Snecko Eye, all of a sudden, I feel like it's turning into a clusterfuck. And that's how I feel the deck performs. As it stands. There's, like, other stuff to consider, too. Like, when I got off at Flame Barrier earlier and I took Brutality again, or instead, rather, Flame Barrier would have helped a lot of the turns where Snecko Eye was bad, and I chose to take Brutality instead. So, like, I'm leaning further away from Snecko Eye. I only get offered it one time in 7 or whatever, anyway. I've lost track of which events I've done and stuff. This seems fine. I said I wanted a Rage upgrade. Oh, it was Guardian Cobalt, though? Guardian happened 2/3 of the time, not Slime Boss. I think we would have noticed if Slime Boss happened 2/3 of the time. But yes, I do think about that sometimes. I don't think any, like, big world record streaks happened during that time period or anything, but, like, it certainly draws attention to the seriousness or lack thereof of Slay the Spire as a competitive thing. Would I ever consider doing a volume challenge in an older patch? There's so much quality of life stuff that got added since 1.0. Well, actually, 1.0 isn't that old, but still, in terms of, like, the actually older patches, I can't really play them because the quality of life is so egregious to me compared to what I'm used to now. Any standout games I do enjoy from genres I don't normally enjoy? That's a fun question. I'll answer that question while I fight a Hexaghost. How about that? I don't think I get to innate brutality yet. Upgrading Battle Trance is a little iffy if I take Pyramid. I want to upgrade Iron Wave. Just gonna fuck around. Why not? Nobody can stop me. I'm just kind of doing things today. Alright. The question was, are there standout games in other genres that I like, even though I don't usually like those genres? Or something like that. The thing for me about that is I actually, as far as I can tell, and this is something that I've had reason to care about myself, because I've been playing games for a living for however many years at this point. And so I, like, look at what's coming up in the release cycle and try to get excited about different things that I think I might enjoy a lot. As far as I can tell, I just like good games. Like, I don't really have that much in the way of genre preference, actually. Like, I don't really play first-person shooters, but PUBG, like, the experience of playing PUBG with friends when PUBG came out was really fun, so I really liked playing it. I haven't played a first-person shooter since then. Among Us was just really fun. I fucking hate PvP games, and I don't like deception games, but Among Us was just really well done. Baldur's Gate 3, awesome game. A lot of these are just, like, I think I just like good games and don't have a genre that I actually have much affinity toward. Because I also have, like, no patience whatsoever for roguelikes unless I think they're very good. If I play a roguelike and I don't think it's very good, I am not going to enjoy it. It's not the genre for me that is making roguelikes fun. It is the fact that Slay the Spire is a really good game. I don't know what I meant to take here. If I took Corruption, I would then be able to take Snekoi. That's kind of interesting. Also, it heals me. Also, I have a drop kick. I think this is just Immolate, though. Immolate's pretty important in quite a few of the Act 2 fights that I'm not very good at the moment. Sneko showed up. Should we just take Sneko? Having spoken for so long about how I don't think it's very good here. The other options aren't very good. Black Star's probably okay. I'm gonna take just Sneko. Whatever. You think my genre is interesting decision makers? A lot of the time I play games where I just click buttons. What a jam. What a great song. What card do I take the least often? Probably one of the colorless cards. Like Transmutation or something. Because it's like not in card rewards. So even when it is good, it's hard to be offered it. And then most of the time it isn't good. Yeah, probably something like that. Should I break Maw-Bank? Guess so. Feels like if I win this act, I win the run. Probably. Good fight. I don't think Armaments is unpickable. Let's take an Armaments. That can be my next upgrade. I get 2 demon forms? That seems fun. Sure. Panic Button's like pickable with Snekoi. What a disgusting card. It is though, like that you can just take that with Snekoi. That's kind of silly. Take a Second Wind, take a Strike Remove probably. I have Sever Soul and Second Wind to get rid of my defense. Alright. I am currently answering questions from about half an hour ago, by the way, if you're wondering if I have missed your question or not. 35 minutes ago, yeah. I have recorded videos in the past talking about things. When I have recorded videos in the past talking about things, how much on average had I written beforehand and how much was something off the top of my head as I recorded and made realizations from the discussion? I usually know what I'm going to say before I say it. I haven't necessarily prepared it for that long, but I have pretty much decided what I want to say. Generally, would I have the best chance of beating IRL? I think I could beat a louse. Probably. I guess I don't know for sure. So it turns out that thing I was saying about demon form not being good here was just completely wrong, which is fun. Or sorry, no, demon form Snecko about Snecko not being good. If I put Bash here, can I kill this? 43, 31, not quite. So Bash has to go here, unfortunately. I do feel like the demon forms would benefit more from Snecko if they didn't cost 3 every time I drew them. I feel like kind of garbage. You skip more with Snecko than you do without Snecko. I think that's generally true. Because the cards which cost 3 are less common than the cards which cost 0, mostly. That's like an oversimplification, but that's mostly why. It is the most useful way to simplify it, probably. You did notice that when you started taking Acro higher, you also started taking Reflex higher, even when you didn't have an Acro yet. Yeah. If you prioritize something in Slay the Spire, it brings a whole bunch of other things with it. But I'm making AI Jorbs. This is AI Jorbs. Actual Jorbs is currently on a beach in Sicily. Hey, Asith. Bob asked, what is the most obscure deep cut Slay the Spire fact that I know of? I have no idea. Twitch chat, do you know the answer to that? Sometimes I store my memory in Twitch chat a little bit. Like, I've had the devs on the channel, and we've asked them all sorts of things. I just don't know what the most obscure thing that I've asked them might be. You struggle with wave 11 to 12 Horde running SMGs. Any tips? Where'd my pen go? Is this thing on? Yeah. If this is the board in Brotato, a lot of like managing Horde waves is moving from here around this corner up to here and then turning around and going back again. If you can do that, like, you kill a lot of enemies and avoid a lot of enemies. Also, like, buying 1 Pierce will make SMGs a lot better. I feel like asking a Brotato question is kind of cheating. I'll answer a Slay the Spire question as well. But it was a reasonable question. Hey, Bojangles. What is the strongest floor 0 bonus? Is it feed? The strongest floor 0 bonus? The strongest one that you get with any regularity is 250 gold. Getting 250 gold and going to a shop just kind of wins you the run most of the time. That's my opinion anyway. I don't boss relic swap, but I guess if I did, like, getting Pandora's box from boss relic swap kind of trivializes the run every time as well. Feed's very strong. Feed might be... There are situations where feed doesn't pan out. Like, it definitely doesn't win you the run every time. And feed's one of the weird ones to evaluate because the times where it does win you the run, it's egregious. Like, it's egregious to have 250 health. It makes it look like feed is really, 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 really strong when, like, a card which wins you the run like 90% of the time with 250 health looks like it's really strong the 90% of the time, but then 10% of the time maybe it doesn't play out and you lose. And that's, you know, not actually that strong. It just looks strong the times it works. I suspect that feed from Whale is higher than 90% actually, but Yeah, I don't know. You can definitely get some strong stuff from the whale. No doubt. Sneaky Badger. I have not lost his Ironclad since the last time I upgraded. Iron Wave to Iron Wave Plus. Big if true. Using Artifact Potion here seems fine. I really genuinely think the demon form would be better if I could put it on play. Nice Rage Draw. Somehow still alive though. A mummified hand. Okay. The game heard me. Entrench is a strong card. It doesn't work incredibly well with Second Wind. It would be nice with Barricade, if I found a Barricade. I might just take it. It's like okay. And then if I find a Barricade, it kind of just wins me the run. I'm gonna go here and Rust. I'm strong enough that I don't have to risk an elite fight on 26. With a question mark before it even could make me even lower. May I answer an evil question occasionally? Sure. Elden Ring Night Train got you thinking that just to make a roguelite out of your game is an interesting exercise in game design for developers and could produce some cool and creative stuff. Do I think this experiment should be tried more broadly in this industry? I don't know if that's tongue-in-cheek or not. There are like 1,000 games getting released every year where people do that. At this point, I find it really boring. It was interesting 6 years ago, maybe. If I could only force one strategy on Ironclad every run, which one would it be? It's really hard to force strategies in Slay the Spire. Like, I want to say, like, I would try to get Snecko Eye every run, but, like, you either do or you don't, right? There's no, like... There's no way to force that or not force it. I guess the way to not force it is not take Snecko Eye if it's offered to you. I've tried... I would say that the two major strategies that you can try to force with some consistency on Ironclad are... Okay, maybe there are three, actually. But there's overlap. There's exhaust synergies, like Feel No Pain, Dark Embrace stuff. Hey, the Corruption came back. Cool. So there's Feel No Pain synergies with Corruption and Dark Embrace, and Juggernaut does pretty well in those, and you pack your deck full of skills if you want, or you go for an infinite if you want to do that instead. Either works. And then there's strength synergies, which like getting a little bit of max HP and strength, and then if you have like 100 max HP and a Reaper and you can gain strength, you kind of just full heal every fight. And then the third one, which like has overlap with both of those, is infinite, where like you're just trying to get to a point where you're playing Dropkick over and over again, or Pommel Strike with Sundial or something like that. And I've tried forcing all of those things on Ironclad. Probably the infinite force is the one that I've done the least of. I tend to build infinites, which, like, are a consequence of playing the fight out with a different strategy, and then at the end you get to an infinite, rather than trying to have an Ironclad deck which goes infinite on turn 1 or whatever. If I had to pick one of those three to force, at the moment I would probably go Strength, but I don't know that that's because I think it's better than going for Exhaust would be. I think it's more that I've tried going for Exhaust more than I've tried going for Strength. Or at least more recently. Alright. That was an entire floor, so it's time for another question already. Unbelievable. Ask questions about tabletop Slay the Spire. Yeah, but I've only played like 10 hours of it, so I don't know if I'll have anything to say. What would make Pressure Points a good card, and or is it a good card on people beside Watcher? The thing about Pressure Points is it actually costs a lot of energy to deal damage with Pressure Points. Like, what is it, like 8 or something? It's like 1 energy for 8. 2 energy for 24, 3 energy for 48, 4 energy for, it's another 36, 84 damage. That's not actually very good. And it costs 4 card draw. So 4 energy and 4 card draw for 84 damage. That's actually like kind of terrible. Which obviously, like, it's a bad card or whatever, sure. But I think the thing that people might think about Pressure Points is that it's a bad card unless you get to the right use case where you're playing it lots of times. And no, it's actually a bad card then, too. Like, you can actually just go infinite, or play Limit Break and deal more damage, or play Burst Catalyst, or just win the fight on turn 1 with real attacks, you know? Yeah, I think that people have this idea that if you got to a point where you were drawing and playing Pressure Points lost, it would be good, and it just kind of isn't. I think that in order for it to be good, you would need it to synergize with things. One of the big things is that it just doesn't synergize with any of the ways that Watcher has to block, for example. Like, it doesn't work with Mental Fortress or Talk to the Hand. And it doesn't really work with block cards either, because they cost energy and it costs energy, and they cost card draw and it costs card draw. The thing that it would synergize with would be like a power which did something when you played Pressure Points. If there was a power that like drew a card and blocked for 4 every time you applied Mark or something like that, that would give you some way to build a deck where playing Pressure Points could be appealing conceptually to me. I was going to upgrade armaments. Yeah, I'm still down for that. It's fine. I took Sapphire Key there because Whetstone seemed terrible. And I need to take Sapphire Key at some point. I am still missing Steam achievements. I don't have all the Steam achievements in Slay the Spire. How big does the Slay the Spire to release loom in my future? Large enough that I have, like, informed family members about it. Kind of. Pretty large. People are aware that I will be very busy playing a video game for a while. at some point in the not too distant future. Here's the thing, I might not like it that much. But I'm certainly excited to, like, find out that I don't like it that much. It is unreal how hard it has been to play demon forms. Mummified Hand helps a lot, of course. I will play my one attack for the turn. Thank you, Snecko Eye. Luck. The deck's still pretty strong. That's fine. Kunai is very whatever. I'm gonna take an offering. It's certainly worse when it costs between 0 and 3 than when it costs 0. Still pickable. I already answered the question. This floor? Maybe. What was the main change I would like to see in Slay the Spire 2? Would I like if Slay the Spire 2 had some question marks? Interaction story quests through the runs. Oh, so you're like progressing with the quest through the run? I kind of hate that, to be honest. I don't think I'd like that. Maybe though. Maybe. I don't know. I can't remember ever playing a game where I did like that. I made a video about being excited about Slay the Spire 2, like, shortly after the release trailer. And I don't think anything much has changed since then in my world. In terms of what I want to see change, like, I just want to see what Casey and Anthony cooked up. I think whatever they do will be awesome. And they're the game devs, not me. So mostly I'm like ceding to their vision on that one. In terms of if I were to put anything in the game, it would 100% be a character whose card rewards were always match and keep. But that's why I'm not the dev, because that wouldn't actually be fun. It would be miserable and wouldn't be enjoyable. But, like, I mean, that's why I'm not the dev. So, yeah. My idea for game dev is kind of like a 500 elo chess player's idea for developing an attack, where you like move the queen out to threaten checkmate it in one move, and then like there is just absolutely no depth to the idea in any way. Like if they block with a piece, you're like, oh fuck, my move was worthless. That's kind of how my ideas for game development tend to go. Game development's a skill, and it's not one of the ones that I'm like trained in or have any experience with. Are there any ways of optimizing Slay the Spire gameplay that I only realized later on? I'm not counting that as a flaw. So, I mean, the answer is going to be yes. I'm just wondering if it's yes in a useful way. And what the useful way would be. Because there are absolutely, like, things I got better at as I played more of the game. Which included, like, learning that you could do certain things that I didn't realize you could do. Things like learning that you could, like, win the champ fight by doing a certain thing, which I didn't know at first, that kind of stuff. I don't know if that's answering your question, though. I feel like as a process, I haven't really learned that there's like a new process that you can optimize Slay the Spire runs through in a very long time. My process has generally been the same. Also, maybe interesting note on process, maybe not interesting. Like, there's a lot of stuff that I could do to improve at Slay the Spire that I don't do. Like, one thing that I think about is, so say you have tactical versus strategic elements of the game. So tactical and strategic. And tacticals like do the math right to beat Gremlin Knob, or use potions as well as possible in fights, or whatever, stuff like that. Generally speaking, to get better at tactical stuff, like, some of it is practicing and some of it is realizing all the things you can do, but a lot of it is thinking for a long time when you're in a situation. Chess players are going to be better at tactics when they are playing a game of chess with 2 hours on their time limit than when they're playing a game of chess with 1 minute on their time limit. And they didn't, like, change how good they were at tactics as a human being going from one of those games to the other. They just changed how much time they could spend thinking about tactics. And so, like, generally, in order to get better at tactics, like, the simple thing to do is think longer. And I don't want to. And then for strategy is really interesting because, like, to improve at strategy, I think a lot of people spend, like, a long time playing strategy games without ever improving at strategy on their own. A lot of people improve at strategy exclusively by looking at what other people do for strategy, or by reading strategy guides, or something like that, and never actually make a step forward in strategy by themselves. So, like, you might work out by reading a book that you should control the center of a chessboard using pawns in the opening, or something like that. But a lot of people's interaction with strategy is to do that and kind of, like, download the strategy into their head and then execute it, rather than to, like, actually work to refine the strategy on their own. Very few people start out playing chess and don't go read a book and then work out you should control the center of the board with pawns on their own. The idea of doing that is, like, it sounds kind of alien. But Slay the Spire is a game where there isn't anywhere near as much strategic history or advice available. And one of my jobs as a Slay the Spire creator is to be one of the people who makes strategy and makes strategic advice. And so one of the things I don't do very much is I don't go look at what other people have said. Not because I, like, think they're wrong or think it wouldn't be useful, but because I want to say my own thing. And it's harder to say my own thing if I'm thinking about what other people are saying and reacting to them and stuff like that. I go back and forth on whether that's the best I can do or not. But it's also, like, kind of the most fun way to do it for me anyway. And yeah, like, that's more being driven by what I want to do than thoughts about what the best way to do it is, to be honest. It seems to work okay for me. What's the other thing I wanted to say? I don't do that. Oh, and I guess, like, I try to make conclusions about strategy on my own. Like, I try to be able to tell you useful heuristics and things about cards and stuff like that. In StarCraft, some of the best pros are considered optimizers. They don't typically come up with new strategies, they just refine and perfect existing ones to be the best. Yeah, and that's a really interesting dichotomy of skill. Tournaments, for a game like StarCraft, tend to reward the person who's really good at tactics and minutia much more than they reward the person who is good at, like, broad understanding. The person who is better at broad understanding tends to do really well as a coach or something like that. So they might get a job as a coach, and then they're the person coaching the person who's actually playing and winning the tournament. And like, you know, 2 people were involved in that, but the person who won the tournament is probably the person whose name you know. Which is interesting, because like setting up tournaments the way we do is pretty arbitrary. We could have competition in a way where the people who were best at being coaches were the people who won the tournament. The tournaments would look different. Maybe it would be less fun to watch. I don't know. It's just kind of interesting to think about. It is something I have certainly thought about in my life quite a bit. Captain Red, thanks for the 58 months. Appreciate it. The very best are good at strategy and minutia. True. But there aren't many people who are just better than everyone else at every single thing. That's like kind of imaginary. Usually like one person is the best at one element of a thing and a different person is the best at a different element of the thing, and then who actually wins the tournament is a function of which thing the tournament asks you to be best at. Which, like, yeah, I don't know. I've been thinking about it in StarCraft a little bit recently because, like, a big point about StarCraft is that even though people have been practicing StarCraft for like 25 years now, it still seems to be a relatively balanced game, even though the balance patches aren't like rolling out all the time and everything. Like, the races just seem to like perfectly interact with each other so that you can have interesting games where like it's fair for both players no matter which race they're playing, etc. And it's just like an overt lie because the map pool is changing all the time. And so they're just rebalancing the game with the map pool. They're trying to make, like, if Zerg has been winning a lot, they try to make maps which Zerg isn't as favored on, because the layout of the map is, like, making it so that it's harder for Zerg to attack and easier for the other people to attack Zerg. That kind of thing. So it's just like a lie. Yeah, I don't know. The people who decide the map pool for StarCraft tournaments have a very significant input into deciding who wins the StarCraft tournaments, though. Alright, the Collector. I got Demon Form and play on turn 1. I should just kind of win now. This is not a very close run. That's okay, though. Sometimes Slay the Spire runs aren't close. I am fascinated, personally, by how much patience I have for Slay the Spire runs, which aren't close, where if any game like Slay the Spire had me in a situation where I felt like I had already won and I had another, like, 30 minutes left to click cards for the rest of the run before the run ended, I would, like, uninstall it. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. Why am I like that? I don't know. Maybe it's because I've been playing Slay the Spire for so long, so it's like familiar and I give it more leeway. Maybe it's because I've played enough runs of Slay the Spire that I've seen some really complex, interesting runs, and so I'm like, okay, this run's easy, but the next one will probably be complex. That kind of thing. I don't know. I really don't know. I wish I knew, because I'd love to be able to play other roguelikes and be like, oh, this run's really boring, but I bet the next one will be good. But if I play other roguelikes and I have a boring run, I, like, uninstall. It's just... I'm completely fucking unreasonable in every way. You let me have a strong thing in Act 1, like, I'm never playing your game again. it's even worse because I'm playing on like Ascension 0 and then I don't know. I don't know. The way a lot of roguelikes are structured, it takes like hours and hours and hours to even get to the max difficulty, and I just don't really have the patience for it in them a lot of the time. Do I think every character should be capable of going infinite, and should it be more difficult than Slay the Spire one? I have a video on this, I think. I believe this is something that I have answered with a YouTube video. No, it was a Twitter thread, actually. Holy shit. I forgot I used to, like, try to make good Twitter threads. What a wild thing to think about. In this day and age. These are... That's... Okay, well, time to eat things. Slay the Spire has infinites available. But it has, let me see if I can remember the thread. Because at some point I worked out what exactly my thoughts were on this, but it was a long time ago. So one thing about Slay the Spire is you can get an infinite, but there are still things which will challenge your infinite. The heart hits you with a beat of death. The time meter exists at the end of Act 3. And there are a few other small things too, like Nemesis giving you a bunch of burns, like enemies which give you statuses. So even though you can build an infinite, it can be challenged by enemies in the game. That's a really big deal, because there are games where you can build infinites which are just never challenged by anything once you build them, and that's, like... If there's a strategy a player can go for in the game, there should be something in the game that fights against it. Otherwise... Like, what are we even doing? What's the point of playing? But Slay the Spire does have things which fight against infinites, so that's good. That makes it more acceptable for there to be infinites in the game. And then another thing in Slay the Spire is there is a terminal point to the game. Like, no infinite is really infinite because the enemies have hit points which go to 0. And at some point, once you beat enough enemies, the run is over and you win. Because I've played runs where, like, I've gone infinite, and it's like, the more times you do this, the more score you get. But it doesn't end. So, like... I'm just sitting there, like, clicking the button, watching the number go up, and, like, this is gameplay now? Eventually, obviously, like, I will take it upon myself to stop playing the run, because that's incredibly boring. Reinforcement farming in XCOM. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. God. Brutal. I had successfully forgotten that that was a thing in XCOM. IT rules. Thanks for the 46 months. Burn melt. So I can use offering. I will just heal back to full. Double tap immolate kills, unfortunately. But this works. It feels like I've gotten to the point of the Slay the Spire run where it's kind of a disservice to the universe to still be thinking hard about it. It's a weird thing to think, but it is also a thing that I think. I am still like 40 minutes behind on questions, so let me look for another. Since backseating is legal today, I must say continue to use the red champion. He is honorable, and do not use the green lady. She does backflips instead of fighting fair. That's reasonable. That is reasonable. I'm also really hungry. I think after this run, I'm going to go have lunch. What do I enjoy about Slay the Spire's approach to sustain and max HP? I think it's good that there are a fairly large number of ways you can trade something to get health back. For example, resting. I think that being able to rest makes this game a lot better. I think there are fights which are quite intentionally designed to be solved by you having access to some amount of health a lot of the time. I said that in like the most confusing, convoluted way possible. What I'm trying to say though is like, against the heart, if you have a certain amount of health, it makes the heart fight a lot easier. And so you are rewarded for having max HP, even with decks which don't take damage all the time. Yeah, something like that. Alright. I am hungry and tired. I haven't slept very much recently. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly finish this run, and then we can do more of this next time. This has been fun. It uses my brain a lot more than just brain off playing runs. I want to click the cards for a bit now. Maybe I'll stop scrolling up, and I'll just answer current ones. It's just kind of a lot to be 40 minutes behind on questions in a stream that I started an hour and 40 minutes ago. That's a lot, chat. Are there been any good questions? So many good questions. So many good questions. Also, I have a feed to optimize now, so I kind of have to pay slightly more attention to clicking on the cards in the fights. Only a little bit, though, because I just win anyway. Slay the Spire. Does feed work with flour? I believe so. If it doesn't, you will see it not work with flour on screen, and then you'll know. Yeah, Blueprints has a lot of weird muting going on. It is unfortunate. And it does often line up with, like, the most important cutscenes in the run and stuff like that. Very unfortunate. I guess I'm not upgrading my other feed. That's kind of fine. Lupine would be pretty good here. Not very necessary. We are solidly in the one run kind of territory at the moment. You've just been imagining how I react to things in Blueprints. legit. I don't know. Bull or Twitch? I feel like some of that's up to you. Be the good Twitch chat question you want to see in the world. Somebody asked if they could ask politics questions, and then I don't know if they ever asked a question. I just remember somebody asking that and being like, oh, this will be interesting, and then I don't think... Oh, I just exhausted exam. Well, whoops. I don't think I ever actually got the question. Does this run my max HP? Like most ever? My most max HP ever is somewhere in the 350 range. Ow! I have not played the Celeste Strawberry Jam stuff. Is Claw a good card, yes or no? Oh my. Is that the political question that I was promised? How many claws are there? More than 2. Oops. Oh. I assumed it was dead. This feed? It is feed. Nice. Which card is my favorite, and would it be cool if you made a crochet tapestry of said card? Apparition's not my favorite card, but it is my favorite beta art. What's my favorite card? I don't know. Wraithform beta art is also very nice. I like the apparition one slightly more. But the Wraithform beta art is great. Looks like a strong run. How are the other acts? This all started because I tried a demon form from Whale over Fiendfire, huh? This is kind of why I wanted to do that. Like, this is the good case for demon form. What the run looks like if you take a demon form and then it turns out to have been a good idea later. The good case for Fiendfire is, like, going infinite on turn 2 a whole bunch. Which is also pretty strong. On brand to have played for X billion hours and not considered my favorite card. I don't really have, like, favorites in that way.
There is stuff I could say about that. Also just not, though. Do I not run out of skills against the heart? No, I don't. Also not fighting the heart yet. A lot of those say 3. Well. You're gonna dunk on bronze scales? Bronze scales is great. Bronze scales is just trying its best. Oh my god. Okay, good. Oh my god. It's fine. It's mostly fine. I think this deck could have killed Transient, but these were not the orders that I needed to draw the cards in to do it. How much do I believe in Death of the Author? Is that something one has to believe in? I feel like it's just a true statement. I think the meaning of things in our lives is what we choose for them to mean. Broadly speaking. That's different, though, from, like, is it okay to give J.K. Rowling money? This different thing. Please do not give that lady money. This has been a really good run for my Floor 1 Demon farm. There's now 3 of it, and it's upgraded, and I have a Snecko Eye, which means that, like, it only costs 3 75% of the time that I draw it for some reason. You're giving her money if your retirement fund invests in Warner Brothers? I think so? Sounds like you're probably not trying to, though. Codeine, thanks for the sub. I appreciate it. Gave her money, you personally handed her $100. I guess you and I make different choices in our lives. I'm still trying to get through the last Stormlight Archives book. Not been reading that much recently. This song is sung by Steve from Stranger Things. This song? I skipped Ari because I didn't want to have to look at that many card rewards. It's questionable, but it's what I did. Welcome, Codeine. The boot. I just rust. Remember to keep up the tempo during turns. So true. Did a little bit of work in shareholder activism and came to the conclusion that it's pretty ineffective. It's just not a viable method of affecting change. I think stuff like that, its value doesn't have to be affecting change. I think its value can be like making people feel better about the choices they're making in their life. Or like setting standards culturally or something like that. The corruption birth concern always hit a non-skill in hand. Yeah. Yeah, the skills will be discounted before the discount happens. And Kellis' turn. It's like, no. Next turn looks fine, though. Something I think is important to remember as a strategy gamer myself is that like using strategy to decide things is completely made up. And it's very new. The idea of like using statistics to decide what you wanted to do would have gotten you like burned at the stake 300 years ago or something. So a lot of the time when people do something, it doesn't have to have like a game theoretically justified effect and impact and everything. It can just be that they're like doing the thing because humans do things. Statistics and data are still not listened to. Damn right. Fucking witchcraft. I am not convinced that as a society we are like statistically literate enough to make many decisions off statistics, let alone like all of them, or as a default. I think it is fascinating that asking people not to spend money on something that's like, I don't know, killing a bunch of children or something like that spends social capital. Like, it seems to me like that would generate social capital. People would be like, oh, you don't support killing children? Me neither. I will now think of you as more of a social authority. That's what makes sense to me. Oh no! I still had double hit. My magic fish, thanks for the 37 months. Hope you're doing well. Grenade is good. Was that good? Maybe. Migishu. There have been a lot of good questions. How'd my foray into Slorm game late game go? I only got up to like level 55. Don't really think I made it into late game. I did find out after ending stream that I can craft legendary items, which helped me to understand how I meant to progress into late game quite a lot, but I don't want to like do it. Spending social capital always generated social capital with people who agree with you. Yeah. Exactly. And people agree that we shouldn't kill children, right? We all agree that, right? 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 That one Natalie Portman gif. What do I consider my political views? I think I just mostly have the right political views, where everybody else has the wrong ones. That's probably the most honestly that I can answer that question. I don't fit very well onto American ideas of what politics are, because I am from a different country. I'm not trying to be like cagey with that answer, it's just like kind of my experience. I think a lot of things are just like obvious and not political stances. Like the idea that healthcare is a political issue in the US is like fucking insane. And then I think other things are political issues, which like the US doesn't think are political issues. But yeah, generally I like think humans should have rights and shit. The other country that I'm from that isn't the US is one of the Western ones that has like rights or whatever. It's still a political issue in other countries in terms of quality of care or whatnot. Yeah. Which is like sensible. Politics isn't about whether we should just let people die. It's about like what's the best way to not have people die. It's just a very different framing of the political conversation. Why is the heart being mean? So far I have lost less than 1/3 of the health that I have available for this fight. Am I done? I don't know if I want to play the feeds before I have more strength. Also, like, I'm weak right now. It's like playing them's kind of bad. Same with defend, like, I'd rather play it when I'm not frail. Yeah, I think I'm done. Often do I feel like I'm an immigrant versus just feeling at home? I feel like feeling at home is just made up at this point. Like, the story I got told at some point was that because I was an immigrant, I wouldn't feel at home, but then, like, increasingly I just think that nobody does. Is that right? I don't know, but it's my feeling. So 38 months smash you! GG. I got the feed. Yes. Nice run. Thank you for the lovely questions. I'm gonna go have a nap. I may stream more this evening or I might not. Let me see how I'm doing. What was my favorite question? That one, right then. The question was a banger. Demon form from whale turned into 3 times upgraded demon forms plus Nikolai.
I won my last 7 on Ironclad. My Ironclad PB is not that much. I don't even know what it is. It's probably like somewhere in the 12 to 15 range. Maybe this is the moment